welcome back to my channel. My name is Marina. So today's video was actually requested by a very special person in my life. She knows who she is, and I am so very grateful for her, and I love her and her family dearly. And as you can tell from the title, I am going to be talking about my entire experience from every angle with adoption. So this is probably my fourth time trying to film this video. I don't know if this is going to end up some big sobbing mess, but I'm going to try very hard not to cry on a video that is public on the internet for the world to see. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So I'm just going to jump right into it. In October of 2015, I gave birth to my daughter, Kyrie. She will be 3 in October of this year, and I love her very, very much. When I had gotten pregnant with her, it was unexpected. By unexpected, I mean I was not trying to get pregnant. I have never tried to get pregnant. I originally didn't want any kids, and that's just because I don't feel like I was given a mother gene. I don't know. Some people are really good with kids, and kids just flock to them, and they know how to play, and they know how to talk to kids, and they understand kids, and I was not like that at all. I had just decided, gosh, I knew when I was really little that I just did not want to have kids. But crap happens. So in 2015, in October, I gave birth to my daughter, Kyrie. She is so funny. She cracks me up all the time. So I had her, and everything went fine. We brought her home. Everything was fine. I started to get some, motherly instincts, and everything was fine. So I'm not exactly sure when this started, but a few months after Kyrie had come home, I got sick, and it was out of the blue. I remember this. I was sitting on my bed, and I was just playing a video game, and all of a sudden I had to get up and run to the bathroom and got sick. And I don't really get sick a lot. It's very rare that I get sick and am vomiting. That's a really rare thing for me. But when it happened, I didn't really think anything of it, and I was just like, well, that was odd. Over the next few days, I was getting sick again. I would get sick like once a day, and I was like, what in the world is wrong with me? Because after I would get sick, I would feel fine. Before I got sick, I would feel fine. I never felt, like sick. And as time started to go by, this turned into a throwing up like every couple minutes thing. I was throwing up like 12 times a day. I counted once, and it was 12. It was absolutely ridiculous. I felt awful, and I was like, what in the world is wrong? Of course, I had that thought of, is there any possible way that I could be pregnant? And I thought about it, and no, there was no possible way that I could be pregnant. There was no way. I was having what seemed like periods at the time. There was no way. More time goes by, and the whole little what seemed like periods started to stop, and I was still getting sick, and I was like, what is wrong with me? So I was like, well, there is no way that I could be pregnant. I remember calling my mom. I talk to my mom every single day. I call her every day, or she calls me, and we will talk for like 2 hours, and the last hour of us talking is usually like, hey, I've got to go do this. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've got to go too. And then somebody will just be like, hey, did you see that thing? And then it just goes on and on forever. So I called her a bunch of times during this, and I was telling her, like, I'm throwing up all the time, but I know there is no way that I am pregnant. Do not worry. My mother is like the pregnant police. If I don't start my period on time, because she checks, if I don't start like on time, then she is on it. Like, are you pregnant? Are you pregnant? I was telling her, like, there's no way that I'm pregnant. Finally, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take a test just to put this to bed, because I'm not pregnant. So I go and I get a test, and lo and behold, Guess who's pregnant? Immediately, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have this little bitty baby, just had a baby, I can't be pregnant, what am I going to do? I am just panicking, I am a mess, I am like crying constantly, I don't know what I'm gonna do, I am freaking out. There was no possible way, financially, mentally, and physically, there was no way that I was going to be able to have another baby. There was just no way. So I'm considering options, and finally I land on adoption. And at the time, I don't know, I was not against adoption by any means, and I mean nothing negative in any way, shape, or form by saying this, but at the time, this is just the way I thought. I didn't really consider adoption an option leading up to this. I didn't. I think it's mostly because of all of the negative attention that I have seen people get by talking about adoption. There was this girl that I went to school with. She had gotten pregnant and she decided to go with adoption. And constantly, like still to this day, there are people talking about her in such negative ways, like she did something wrong. They're saying like, oh my God, how in the world could you ever just give your kid away? She just gave her kid away. How in the world could you do that? And I never felt that way about it at all. But after hearing all of these people talk about this girl this way, and it was just so hurtful and hateful, and I never considered it for myself because I did not want to have to deal with that. So finally I land on the idea of adoption. And I didn't know anything about it. I had no idea how to get started. I had no idea what I needed to do. I knew nothing. So I was talking to my mom about this, and she actually had someone in mind that she's very close to. I am very close to this person as well. And she had wanted a baby for a long time. We start talking about this, and she talks to her and everything, and then it becomes a reality. This woman wants to adopt my baby. And of course, I was thrilled. I was so happy about this because I knew who it was. I knew that the baby would go to a nice home, and I knew how the baby would be raised and everything. It was perfect. Now, the thing is, this person lived far, 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 far away. So I talked to her, and she says, okay, this is great. I'm going to come up there and stay for a couple days. I'll take you to your doctor's appointment and all of that. I was like, okay, great. And that's exactly what happened. She came up. We went to my doctor's appointment. We went out to eat. And the entire time she was here, I felt like something was off. And I don't know, I just felt like she was upset or something. And then, ironically, the whole time she was here, every time I would talk to my mom, she sounded upset. I had said to this woman that, you know, I knew that my mom was upset and I didn't know why, and maybe she thinks that I can't tell, but I could definitely tell she was upset. So I have this woman who is upset, maybe. That's what I'm thinking. My mother, who is upset, I know for sure. And I'm wondering why, because it's such a happy time. Like, she's wanted a baby for forever. I didn't know what I was going to do, and then found out that my baby is going to a good home. You know, it was a happy time, but everyone seemed sad. After a couple days, she ends up going back to the state that she lives in. And I ended up calling my mom a couple days later, and she still sounded so upset, but even more upset than she did before. Finally, I just asked her, I was like, what is wrong? Then she starts crying, which I absolutely hate. That's probably the thing that I hate the most, is hearing my mom cry. It just breaks everything inside of me. It makes me so sad. I hate it. she just said something like, well, she was supposed to tell you. We're going to give the woman a name because I feel terrible just saying this woman. We're going to call her Betty. So she tells me on the phone the reason that Betty was coming up here was actually to tell you that she can't take the baby. Immediately, I'm like crushed, and I'm like, well, why? I was not mad. I was sad because I knew that she wanted a baby, and she did. So I ask her why, and she says it's because she realized that she didn't have the financial stability that she wanted to be able to care for a baby. And my mom was actually, she was really upset about this too, because she knew that all of my, security about this entire situation was just gone. So she was really upset, and I was like, well, no, I understand. Like, I was not mad. I am still not mad. I still talk to Betty all the time. I'm not upset with her in any way over this. I completely understand. So come to find out, Betty had a friend whose brother had been trying to have a baby for a long time. Let's see, we'll call him Jeff, and his wife Sally. So Jeff and Sally had been trying to have a baby for, I believe, around 10 years, I think is what they said. And for some reason or another, it just never worked out for them. Betty suggested that I send him a message and get to know him and see if I would consider him as an option. So that's exactly what I did. I got on Facebook and I found Jeff, and I sent him a message. I explained who I was, and he was really happy to talk to me. That's something that I have noticed about these people this whole time, from start to finish. They have always been so happy. They're happy and they're grateful, and that's how they were from the very beginning. I talked to Jeff for like hours that night. He explained to me why it was that they couldn't have children on their own, and it turns out that we had a lot in common. His wife Sally actually worked in, I can't remember what it was called. She was some type of social worker for adoption. I think they said adoption preservation. And I was really happy to hear that, because I felt like, okay, if I'm about to go through an adoption, if somebody in that family knows something about this and has dealt with kids who were adopted and all of that, then you know what, that is great. So I was super happy about that. I mean, this is a big decision. Of course, no matter what, after being pregnant for 9-10 months, you're going to love that child regardless. And I did. And it is a really big decision, but I decided that they were absolutely perfect, and I couldn't think of anyone better to have that baby than these people. I decided this in one night. So I'm sorry if that sounds irresponsible, or I didn't do enough to make sure that these people were perfect, but look, you'll see, the story has a happy ending. It worked out fine. They're amazing people. So we make it official. Jeff and Sally are going to adopt this baby. Of course, I am thrilled. I talk to them pretty much every single day, and I could see how excited they were, because they were, asking a lot of questions and telling me constantly how grateful they were. Going through the whole adoption process is, just as you would probably think. It's, it's hard, and it's hard to stay positive when you're going through that. I knew I had absolutely no business having another baby. There was no way that I could take care of another baby. There was just no way. There was no way that I could have done it. It's hard, and sometimes it was a sad thing, but when I would talk to these people, And I would say, I am not going to cry. When I talk to these people and I see how thankful they were, how grateful, how excited, how happy they were before, before the baby was even here, that is what made this, I think, the easiest that it could have possibly been. Of course, in this type of situation, you have to get a lawyer, especially considering Jeff and Sally were from a couple states over. Jeff and Sally hired a lawyer for me. He came to my house and he talked to me. He said, if for any reason you change your mind about these people, if anything happens, then here's a website with, a bunch of couples that were looking to adopt. So he was really supportive and, understanding and everything. He came to my house a couple times. Eventually I filled out this paper, which was what the hospital was going to need. Who was going to be in the room whenever I gave birth. When I did give birth, did I want them to place the baby on me immediately after, like you would in any other labor and delivery? Those types of questions. So the original plan was that Jeff and Sally were going to be in the room with me as I delivered this baby. I am super self-conscious, and even though it's, labor and you're not meant to look glamorous and stunning, I still would have never said, yeah, let's do that in any other situation. So I decide, you know what, they can be in the room because this is their child that's being born. I don't want them to miss that, I also decided that right after the baby was born, I didn't want him placed on me. I wanted him to be placed on Sally because she was the mom. I wanted her to have that bonding time like I had when she was born. It's incredible. And I wanted her to have that. Basically, I wanted everything to go for Sally just the way that it would for the mother that was giving birth to the baby. And I wanted the baby to come out of me and go straight to her, and her to have that bonding time with the baby and all of that. Some more time goes by because I have never really thought about it before, I guess, but oh my God, are we not pregnant forever? It seems like we are pregnant forever. We finally get to do an ultrasound. I had not got to do an ultrasound yet. We did not even know the gender of the baby up until I was 8 months pregnant or something, because I didn't find out that I was pregnant until 5 months in or something. All I knew is that there was no way that I was pregnant, and I really wasn't having any symptoms other than getting sick. So somehow I did not realize it until late, so we didn't get to find out the gender of the baby until way after. We finally get to go and have an ultrasound. Now Jeff and I talked all the time. We talked all day, every day, texting. So Jeff had mentioned before that he would like to have a girl because he liked the idea of, daddy's little girl, that type of thing. So we go to the ultrasound, and Jeff and Sally are in the room with me, of course, and we find out the gender. We find out it's a boy. And I was like, I'm sorry. But, of course, they were happy regardless. And we move on. So it starts to get close to time, go time. Thundercats are go about that time. I am so uncomfortable. When I say this, I mean this with the utmost seriousness. This was the worst pregnancy ever. Oh my God, physically. My entire body was constantly in pain. I mean, my fingers would hurt. Everything on me hurt. I was sick pretty much the whole time. You'll find out why this pregnancy was so hard on me, aside from the fact that I had just given birth 6 months before this. Yeah, this pregnancy was really hard. So I was constantly in pain. I was constantly cranky and uncomfortable. On top of all of that, we found out in the ultrasound that my ribs were like about to snap. Like the baby had himself all bunched up in my ribs, and they had actually bent, sort of, where he was pushing on them. Like, I felt like if I had sneezed, my ribs would have snapped. I was dying. So I'm all uncomfortable, I'm cranky, and it's getting close to that time, and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, this is just never gonna end. But then at the same time, I'm thinking, you know, pretty soon I'm going to give birth to this baby, and he's not going to be with me anymore. And I started to get sad. I never once during this entire scenario did I have second thoughts, think about not doing it. I had never thought about switching to another couple or anything like that. As soon as I met these people, my heart was dead set on them, and I was actually afraid that they were going to change their mind. So finally, after what seems like an eternity, I wake up one morning, rolled myself out of bed like a freaking walrus, waddle to the bathroom. I'm still like half asleep. I remember this. I was like this on the toilet, like trying to pee. All of a sudden, I was like, what in the world was that? I was literally like caveman SpongeBob on the toilet. Like, what in the world was that? My water has just broke. That's not good. I was going to be induced because with my oldest child, I got an epidural, but it did not work. And so she was natural, I consider it, because I felt everything. And then with Kyrie, I didn't have an epidural with her because there wasn't enough time, I'm pretty sure is what it was. So I had given birth naturally twice. I did not want to have birth naturally 3 times. Did not want to. Now the problem is, with my water breaking at home, I live a good hour away from the hospital. Kyrie was born in like less than an hour or something. It was crazy. It was like super fast. That's why there wasn't enough time. So I'm sitting on the toilet. My water has just broke. I just realized what is going on, and I'm like, oh no, we are not gonna make it to the hospital. I was freaking out. Luckily, we had our bags packed already. I walk into my room, and my boyfriend is sitting in his chair drinking his coffee. Very calmly, I say, I don't want you to freak out, but my water just broke. And of course, he's like, what? And he jumps up and is all panicking, and I'm like, it's okay. Just grab the bag. We have to hurry. I don't know if we're gonna make it to the hospital. He's panicking. He grabs the bag. We run out to the car. My water had never broke naturally before. Even with Kyrie, with her, you know, coming really fast, they still had to break my water at the hospital. So this was the first time that had happened. I did not know how much time I had. All I knew was that my other labors went very quickly. I was terrified. So we jump in the car, and I don't change my clothes. I don't take a shower, nothing. I just like pulled up my pants and we got in the car. So we're driving to the hospital, and I really don't want to go into detail because I don't want to gross people out. But let's just say that one initial was not all of it. So my seat was wet, my pants were soaked, I had a towel wrapped around me. We are like going, we're over halfway to the hospital, and I'm really not in a lot of pain yet. And I'm like, oh, this is easy, like, you know, this is no big deal. And I swear to God, like the second after I said that, we come up to this stoplight, and then here come the contractions, and these were like, oh man, oh my God, they hurt so bad. And not only did they hurt so bad, but they were lasting like a whole, 30 seconds or something, and were coming like every 1 to 2 minutes. So this was like, you know, they say if your contractions start to get like, what is it, like 5 minutes apart or something, then you need to be like at the hospital. Okay, these were like 1 to 2 minutes apart. He was coming. At one point, also at a red light, because of course we hit every red light on the way there, my body had started to push on its own, which scared the crap out of me. I'm in the car, like I can't be pushing, so I'm trying so hard not to push, and my body is just doing it anyway. Finally, we make it to the hospital, and somebody took my phone and messaged Jeff and Sally. Usually when you come in and you say that you're in labor, they'll like kind of check your contractions and stuff, you know, make sure that you actually are in labor and all of that. So they took me into this emergency room part first, and I'm like, look, this is the real thing, we got to go. And they like wanted a urine sample and all of this, and I was like, we gotta go, like I'm pushing, we've got to go. We get up to the room, and Sally and Jeff still aren't there, and I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And now we're waiting on my doctor to get there. My body is still pushing by itself, and I'm trying to like hold it in, you know, and we're waiting for my doctor, and she is taking forever, and I'm not really, I don't know, I don't want to be a burden on these people, I guess, the nurses and things. I definitely did not want to sound mean, but a couple times I ended up, oh my god, where is this woman? Oh, she's stupid, blah blah blah. And then immediately after I was like, oh my god, I didn't mean that, this just really hurts. But finally they realized that the doctor is not gonna make it in time. Someone else is gonna have to deliver the baby, so they get another doctor. She comes and she's like, okay, give me a big push. And I'm like, okay. That was it. It took me one push to get this baby out. Now, that sounds kind of gross right now, but it's going to be astonishing whenever you find out that this baby was like 10 pounds. Oh my god. This was by far the biggest baby I had ever had. Again, there was no time for an epidural. I weigh like 90 pounds right now. So I weigh like nothing. I have no epidural. I'm 4'11". He's 10 pounds. He came out in one push. I came to do business that day. I was actually in the hospital's system for 12 minutes, and he had been born. He was born within 12 minutes of being at the hospital. So immediately after I have him, they ask if I wanted to have him on me, even though I put on the paper that I didn't. I guess I didn't get the paper, probably not, because she wasn't my doctor. And I said no because, well, you probably know, I was worried that, not that I would back out or anything like that, I just didn't want to put myself in that situation where I would become even more attached to this baby than I already was, and then just to go home without him, you know. They take him over to the little thing, they clean him off, and right as they're cleaning him off, Jeff and Sally arrive at the hospital. They come in, they see him, and of course everyone's crying and thank you, and meanwhile my legs are still in stirrups and I'm like over here dying. But it was great. She was so happy, they were both so happy, it was amazing. I was debating on whether or not I was going to talk about this part, but I think I am, because I do want to give you as much of the story as I possibly can. So after the baby had been born, they moved Jeff and Sally and the baby to a little room that they'd be staying in for the next couple days, you know, make sure the baby's okay and everything. And I'm still in the delivery room. Normally, they will move you from the delivery room to the room that you're actually going to be staying in, that's, you know, more comfortable and has more seats for people to sit with you and everything. But they weren't doing that. It was like after the baby was born, they like forgot I was there or something. I don't know. I sat there forever. For some reason, I still haven't really figured this out. I don't know if this happened because of, the situation, like if I was upset, well, more upset than I thought I was. After the baby was born, I was sitting there in that room getting ready to move to the other room, or waiting to be moved to the other room. I got very irritated, and I wasn't mad at any specific person or anything, but I was just so, like, irritated. I don't know what it was. I don't have the slightest clue, but I was just so upset, and I was like, being crappy to everyone around me, and I have no idea why, and I was just, I don't know, I was a mess. And finally, somebody, I think it was my mom, was like, look, you need to chill out. Why are you being so mean? Eventually, later that day, Jeff and I had been talking again. I was a couple of rooms down. They were going to bring the baby over to my room so I could see him. I had my mom and my dad there, and my sister, and then my boyfriend and my daughter Kyrie. We were all there, and excited to see him. They wheel him over in his little bassinet thing. They bring him over, and they let me hold him. They place him in my arms, and I could not hold in any tears at that point. I was trying not to be a big blubbering mess. I was just like, look at everything, look at his feet, and oh my God, he looks like you, and blah blah blah. It was bad. I was a mess. So I hold him for a couple minutes. Everyone gets to hold him. They express how thankful they are, and everything again, which they still are to this day, and I love it. I love getting messages from her. It just makes my whole day. It turns out that after you have a baby, you're fine to go home the next day. They did not keep me at the hospital. So after just a day of being there, I got to come home. And I left the hospital and, of course, cried the entire way home. It wasn't really a sad cry. I was hurting because, the baby. I just feel like, I don't mean this in any type of bad way. At the time and now, I feel like people like Jeff and Sally, people who don't have any children, have been trying to have children for years, were right on the verge of giving up, and then it finally happens for them. I feel like they appreciate that child so much. And I know all parents, I'm sure, appreciate their children, and they're happy that they have them, and even if they had another one, it would be just as much love and appreciation for that child and all of that. But I feel like there's just a little bit something extra with these people that have been trying forever, and they finally have it happen for them. So on the way home, crying, it's more of a happy thing, because I know inside of me, I know that I just did something that is going to change these people's lives in such an amazing way. And I finally did something that's really worthwhile and right and just perfect. Everything about it is perfect. So here we are, a year and some months later. He just turned 1 in January, of course, January 7th. He turned 1 of this year, 2018. And the way that, I know not all adoptions are like this, but the way that we do it, it works out good for everyone, I think. With Sally working in adoptions, she sees it, and she understands it, I feel like. So I was willing to do whatever they wanted to do as far as, me having contact with the baby and everything. Because for one, that is their child. And for two, I feel like, she's gonna know best. She does this. She had said that kids who are adopted, who know they are adopted, and know from the beginning and have contact with their birth parents and things like that, they it tends to work out better. So that is what we did, and that is what we do. And I can message them anytime and get a picture. She can message me anytime. And I plan on sending him letters. She saves all of my videos for him to watch when he's older. And he'll watch my videos, and she'll say to him, do you know who that is? That's your birth mommy. And he'll kiss the phone. She said it's so cute. So to wrap this super long, big story up, I could not think of anyone better to raise this baby, and I'm trying not to cry right now. I am very thankful for them, and I'm very thankful for their beautiful son. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to cry. One day, this baby that I've been talking about, he's gonna watch this video. So, with that being said, I would like to say to him that I love him very, very much, and I hope that he understands why I made this decision. And I'm not crying because I'm, sad about this. I don't regret making this decision at all. I'm just, I'm happy. I'm happy that this child is going to get to grow up with these amazing people and have the best life that he possibly can. And I feel like when my body was created and it turned out that I was going to be a female, one of my little eggs just had Jeff and Sally's name on it, and that's him. And I'm just so happy that I crossed paths with these people, and I'm so happy that he is going to have an amazing life and parents who love him and appreciate him more than he could probably ever understand. And then at the same time, up here a couple states away, he has a whole family that loves him just as much. And he's got so many people that love him. And I'm sorry for being such a sap about this. I made it most of the way without crying, but that's what I've been talking about, though, is that when I think about it, it doesn't make me sad or feel like I'm missing something. I feel more like I have gained so much from this experience. And if you are going through this yourself and you somehow stumble across this video, I just want you to know that you are not alone, and this happens every day. And it might seem like it's impossible or it's hard right now, and it might make you sad to think about it, but I'm telling you, once you see the joy and just the love and the appreciation that this family will show you, and you realize that you are doing something that not everyone can say that they did, it's just amazing. It is one of the best feelings, and it is just as good of a feeling as holding your baby for the first time. It's
like you know, you completed a family, and you gave somebody something that they could have never had without you. So if you're going through this and you're trying to make this decision, you just go with your gut and do whatever you think is best. And if you do decide to go with adoption, I can't guarantee it 100%, but from my experience, I will tell you, there has never been a second that I have regretted it, ever. Okay, so enough of that. That's really all I've got for you, and thank you so much for watching this video and dealing with my big sappy mess. To Jeff and Sally, thank you so much for giving this little boy the best life that he can possibly have. And to that little boy, all of us up here love you so much. And I cannot wait to see you again. And to the people who are watching this video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I very much hope to see you in my next video. Bye.